Now, in other news, Iraq's Air Force says it has killed several top Islamic State commanders in an airstrike, but has admitted that initial claims the group's leader also died may be incorrect. The Iraqi military says it hit a convoy of cars carrying Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi on his way to a meeting in Anbar province, that is near Iraq's border with Syria. Hospital officials say that although at least 8 senior IS leaders were killed in the attack, al-Baghdadi was not among the dead. The Iraqi military says they believe he was driven away from the scene of the attack and that his fate is unknown. An Israeli Arab has stabbed and wounded 4 people at a bus stop in northern Israel. Police say the man rammed his car into a woman before getting out of his vehicle and stabbing her. He then stabbed 3 other people nearby, including an army conscript who's reported to be in a serious condition. Well, the stabbing attack came at the end of a day of clashes between Palestinian youths and Israeli forces in cities across the West Bank. The ongoing protests and the continuing lone wolf attacks on Israeli Jews are heightening tensions over Jewish access to the Temple Mount, where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is situated. 4 Israelis and 23 Palestinians have died in 12 days of bloodshed so far. And yesterday, hundreds of people attended the funeral of a Palestinian man who was shot during clashes with Israeli forces last Thursday and who died of his wounds on Saturday. There was more violence between Palestinian protesters and Israeli soldiers following the funeral. Tyres were set alight. Some of the protesters threw homemade Molotov cocktails towards the soldiers, who sprayed them with skunk water and fired tear gas grenades. In Gaza, the funerals were held of 3 Palestinians whom officials say were killed in an Israeli airstrike, including a pregnant woman and her 3-year-old daughter. Israel says it carried out 2 attacks on Hamas weapons factories, and that was in response to cross-border rocket fire. Medical officials in Gaza say the woman and her daughter were killed when their house collapsed during one of the airstrikes. Well, earlier we spoke to the Jerusalem Post reporter Dan Eisenbud.
At the moment, it's a market escalation. There's no question about it. There were a number of riots over the weekend by the border fence, and several Palestinians were killed during the rioting when they attacked IDF soldiers manning the fence. And this is also part of the rioting that's going on in Jerusalem and in the West Bank. So no region in this area has been spared riots over the last 2 weeks. And it has indeed escalated to a dangerous point. Sunday's deaths were the first Palestinian casualties by an Israeli airstrike since the ceasefire was called during last year's war in Gaza. There are 3 players involved in this right now. They include the Palestinian Authority, Hamas, and the northern branch of the Islamic movement, which is also a fundamentalist and violent organization. All these groups have one thing in common, and that is that they are falsely claiming that Israel intends to seize Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is perhaps the hottest button you could press in this conflict. And this has resulted in numerous lone wolf terrorist attacks, mostly carried out with knives. But the latest terrorist attack took place in Hadera, located in northern Israel near Haifa, when a Palestinian man drove his vehicle into a female soldier and then stabbed 3 other victims. The suspect was arrested and is being questioned by police, while the 4 Israeli victims have been hospitalized and are in serious condition. And this is the problem of the conflict. Not the majority of the people involved in it, who are mostly peaceful. It's a fringe element that's extremely violent, represented by groups like Hamas, that do not want peace, do not want to recognize Israel under any circumstance. And until there is some kind of agreement that Israel has the right to exist, that Jews have a right to exist, I don't foresee a peaceful coexistence.